The next thing I'm going to do is show disassembly of the Taurus PT709 handgun. And the instruction manual has a list of instructions that you can see here, and they're pretty straightforward. It's really not that difficult. But I'll kind of go down the disassembly here, and one of the first things it says is to remove the magazine. So I'll press this button right here to remove the magazine, set it aside, and you know, basically it says make sure that the firearm's empty. So I'm going to put it on, take the safety off, make sure that the firearm's empty, which you can see right there, it is empty. Alright, the next it says hold the pistol in the right or left hand in such a way that 4 fingers rest over the slide and the thumb rests on the rear of the grip. Okay, so what it's saying do is basically, you know, the safety's down here in the fire position, it's unloaded, but to basically hold the gun like that. Okay, now using the fingers, draw back the slide about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so we'll draw back the slide about, that's more than 1/8, about 1/8 of an inch right there. Alright, with the other hand, pull the disassembly latch down, release the slide, release the disassembly latch. Alright, so this is the disassembly latch right there. So it's saying pull the disassembly latch down and release the slide. Okay, now, but it's acting like the slide is actually going to come off if you're following these directions. What I found is at this point right here, you actually need to pull the trigger, and then the slide is going to come off the handgun like that. Alright, so with the slide off, and I'm going to throw this rag up here so I don't get my red bench oily potentially. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to remove the recoil spring, which is right here, and it's just a matter of lifting up on the spring, setting it aside. Next, you're going to remove the barrel, and if you kind of lift up and go forward just a little bit with the barrel, then you can lift it up out of the slide. After that, basically you've got the pistol broken down into the components that you see here: the slide, the barrel, and the recoil spring assembly right here, and then the grip frame. Reassembly of the handgun is also pretty simple. You know, you're going to go through and you're going to reinsert the barrel, you know, back into the slide. You're going to drop it in place, and then you're going to go through and you're going to put your recoil spring assembly in place. Then using your thumb, you're going to compress it a little bit and, you know, get it lined up right up under that edge right there. Then you'll go through and you'll line it back up on the handgun, and when you actuate the slide one time, you know, it's going to reseat up under the takedown bar here, and at that point, you know, it's good to go. Test fire it. Safety still works. Safety's on. Doesn't fire. Fire safety off. So it's good. Pretty simple. So overall, disassembly and reassembly is pretty simple. You know, I was following the instructions that were pretty much in the instruction manual, except that it did seem like I needed to pull the trigger to allow the slide to truly go forward, you know, like that. Now, you know, it didn't talk about, the instruction manual doesn't talk about any further disassembly of the grip frame at all. And personally, if you want your handgun to continue to shoot, I wouldn't recommend doing it unless you know what you're doing, done your research, or you're very familiar with firearms, or it's not critical and you don't mind sending it back to Taurus. But I really wouldn't recommend doing any disassembly there unless you know what you're doing. The slide assembly itself, there's probably some more disassembly that can occur on this particular slide as far as removing the striker, and if you wanted to clean that, and at some point I'll probably do that. Now, if you wanted to disassemble and clean your magazine, then what you're going to do is you're basically going to push down on that little protrusion right there that's inside the square area. You're going to push it down. Okay, you're going to slide the bottom of your magazine, this polymer part. You're going to slide it forward, keeping your thumb over the bottom plate of the magazine until you can relieve some of the pressure on the spring, and then you can basically pull the magazine spring follower out of the magazine body, and so you kind of have what you see here. Reassembly of the magazine, after you've cleaned it, it's pretty simple. Just put it back in there and use your thumb, push down on the spring like that, get the magazine floor plate, and put it on. Basically line up these little edges right there to go over the edge of the magazine lip right there. Slide it on, push it all back into the base plate, snaps up in place, and the magazine is reassembled. Now, a few things to kind of point out about the internals is it's got like a double or dual recoil spring right here, and this particular one has some orange paint on the front part of the spring and some white paint on the back part of the spring, and you can see in there it's kind of flaky or whatever it is. So I would highly recommend taking a brush, brushing all those flakes and crap out of there, and then going ahead and relubricating that. And I'm sure that's what I'll do, but this just shows exactly how it came. The barrel itself, I think it's I think the spec says a 3.2 or 3.3 inch barrel, 3.2 inch barrel length. And you can see here it's got a ramp, and they really did a nice job on polishing the ramp coming up through there. I don't know if it really shows up that well in the video, but they did a nice job on that. The barrel comes with 6-groove rifling, and I tried to take some measurements because I couldn't find anywhere that actually stated it, but it looked like to me it's coming in at about a 1 in 10 twist, right hand twist, which is, I think that's the same or similar to some other compact 9mm on the market with a similar barrel length. The slide itself, or the slide assembly, you can see here that there's the firing pin block mechanism is right here. So when you pull the trigger, you'll end up pressing that down. And what I'm showing here is that the firing pin can't go forward until that's pressed in, and once that's pressed in, let's see here, where's my other punch? I had 2 of them. Once that's pressed in here, the firing pin can go fully forward, and now you can see it protruding there at the breech face. So that's kind of how the firing pin block works. The safety feature on it's kind of interesting, and you can see here that the safety feature is really this part right here, that is where the lock is really that part. And so when you insert the key in there and you turn that lock, what's happening is you can see that this piece right here protrudes up right there. You can see it's kind of spring loaded, and then it'll protrude up. Also, it may be hard to see here in the video, but you can see the body of this housing down there as it turns to its different positions. So like when it's not locked, you could potentially cock, I don't know if you can't tell because my hands are in the way, you could potentially cock the firing pin. When it is locked, the firing pin or the striker can't be cocked back at all. This part right here probably engages most likely right behind this edge right here. I don't know if you can see right there. So it engages right there to prevent the action or the slide from being pulled back while the lock is engaged. Disengage the lock here, and it'll rotate back down out of the way. Now, if you wanted to disassemble this further, and most likely I haven't done this particular firearm before, you know, for several of the striker firearms, basically you take and you push forward on that part of the striker assembly, and when you do, the portion, this orange portion that you see in there, actually sticks up into the rear plate right here. Well, I gave it a try. I pushed it in, but when I pushed it in, I was not able to slide off the back plate, and I don't know if it's just this particular one was difficult to do. I actually have two of these handguns. I wasn't able to slide either one of them off, and I don't want to use a screwdriver at this time and potentially scratch the surfaces, so I'm going to have to do a little bit more research on that before I end up showing how to disassemble the slide assembly or remove the striker. Now, while I've got the slide off, it'll be a little bit easier to see. You can see this piece right here, which is the extractor here, and you know, it's kind of a tall extractor. Not that that's really an issue, but it's kind of what I'd call a tall extractor, and you know, it looks like it's probably going to be effective. It comes to a very sharp edge out there. You can see the side of the body of the extractor, which is right here, and then you've also got the chamber indicator right here. You can see when the round's in there, it's going to push that indicator up, so it both has a tactical feel to it and a visible red that you can see right there. Now, just a couple of things to point out on this particular assembly here. I haven't fired the handgun yet, so what you see is exactly the condition that it was received in. So if there's any dirtiness to it, that's only because of them firing a proof round at Taurus. Now, insert the magazine here, and so you can see here over on the side, for the slide catch right here, you can see how the follower right there, you know, when you come to your last round, the edge of the follower pushes up right there, and it'll cause the slide catch to engage once the magazine's empty. You can kind of see that. Take the magazine back out. The right here is the ejector. You know, it's a fixed ejector. Yeah, so as the slide comes back, extracting the round, it's going to hit this and pop the case out. What I'm trying to show here is that when you pull the trigger here, you can see like that, you've got something that's called your trigger bar, which is this piece right here. Okay, and it actually comes through there and turns, and that's also part of the trigger bar right there. And so you can see, you know, when I pull the trigger, you can see how the trigger bar actuates back. And so if I pull the trigger here to a single action mode point right there, it's in that position. Now just as soon as I pull it further, what you're going to see is the sear here is going to drop down to potentially release the striker. Now, I think what happens in the double action mode, it's this part of the trigger bar right here, which is the part which cocks the firing pin or striker, and then at the very last moment drops down to release it again. And so that represents a double action mode. In the single action mode, it's actually engaged right behind the sear here. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Now, on the trigger bar, it's this part right here, which when you pull the trigger, you can see how it kind of moves up. That's the part which goes back and disengages the firing pin block. When you engage the manual safety, two things are really happening. One is that there's, and I'm not sure how well you can see it, but down in here, there's a part that's going to come up that's going to block this trigger bar right there. It's going to block to prevent it from coming back any further than that. And the other part of the manual safety, I'll turn it around a little bit here, maybe you can see it better, is this part right here. Okay, and that part right there is what goes up into place to prevent the slide from being pulled back right there. I'll also point out that you've got your polymer grip frame here, and then there's a metallic insert that's right here, and I think it's called maybe the center block or center support, and this is the metallic part which houses a lot of the mechanisms associated with the trigger. At the rear, you've also got a metallic block inside the frame, and this block supports the pins and the mechanism associated with the sear and the safety. Now when you look down inside the grip frame down here, what you'll see, that's the magazine catch right there, magazine release, and then there's it's like a bar spring right here that rides in a groove on the catch right there. The Taurus literature states that it can be configured or reconfigured to be ambidextrous. I haven't done it. Most likely it's a matter of pushing that bar into a slightly different position so that you can get the catch part right here out, flipping it around and then putting it back in. I haven't done it. I played around with it a little bit, and I didn't feel like I wanted to continue with it at the moment. I'll have to do my own research on YouTube to try to see if somebody else has done it out there, but maybe at some point I'll show that. Inside the front of the grip frame has got the PT709 is molded in there. This part right here, I guess the slide lugs, these are actually metallic, and it looks like to me that this metallic part is molded as part of the frame itself. Along with, when you flip it over, to me it looks like that's a metallic plate that has a serial number that's also molded into the frame. To give you my final thoughts on this part of the review where I showed disassembly and the internal features, disassembly is pretty simple. There shouldn't be any excuse that you're not keeping your firearm clean because of hassles with disassembly. It's pretty simple. In taking it apart and looking at the mechanisms that are in there, they also seem relatively simple, and they seem, to me, I got the impression that it should probably give you years of use. Only time will tell about the reliability of a firearm, and also you never know. Some guns, just because of dimensional tolerances, do better than others. But I see no reason why this Taurus 709 Slim or PT709 shouldn't give you years of use. As always, if you like this review, please like or subscribe or both, and thanks for watching.